The 2023 season is finally upon us. And to kick off the 2023 season, I've put together my top 50 players. And rather than break down the players in front of all you guys, I'm going to have Sam and Kyle react to them live so they can roast me, they can praise me, they can do whatever they want. But before we start, one really quick thing. I took individual health concerns into account when making this list, but I've indicated whether or not their health concerns affected their ranking.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the players 50 through 41. Going from bottom to top, we have Justin Verlander, Framber Valdez, George Springer, Bo Bichette, Wander Franco ++, Jeff McNeil, Will Smith, Pete Alonso, Max Scherzer, and Spencer Strider ++.
There are quite a few things sticking out here already. I think a lot of people would be really confused about Justin Verlander being 50th. Especially after the season he had last year. I think we have to start with number 50.
All right, so to summarize it really quickly, JV had a great year, obviously, last year, surface stats. But when you look at his peripherals, you have to take into account his age. I don't think he's set up to do what he did last year again. I just don't.
Will Smith being the first catcher off, I'm curious to see how many more catchers we're going to see as we go on to see how Jacob ranked these. Because I think Will Smith is probably my third best catcher in baseball. So I'm interested to see if he's got anybody else above him that I might not have. Another thing real quick too, the position players love the Jeff McNeil love.
I was going to bring that up as well. I love Jeff McNeil as a player and happy he made this top 50 list.
Absolutely.
Freakish bat to ball skills.
Yeah.
Like genuinely like otherworldly.
And then I also love the shortstops and where they're placed here as well. As Rays fans, we obviously hope for a huge Wander breakout after a very disappointing year last year. And Bo Bichette is that guy for the Blue Jays, so I like that placing as well.
Yeah, Wander makes it just off of pedigree. I mean, when you talk about like from last season and him just his quads really just not being able to get them right, like his ceiling is top 3 or 5.
I'm only smiling because of all of that, and Justin Verlander is behind him in the rankings. And that goes to show how high of a prospect Wander Franco is.
Yeah, I know. And you have to take into account ceiling and floor.
Absolutely.
You know?
I agree. I just thought it was cool to point that out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Pete Alonso probably making this 43 position based off of his bat alone. I think he probably could be a little bit higher. It will have to see depending on what players come up after him. Obviously, he's a first baseman and one with not great defense, but I've been digging into his past couple seasons, and he is the definition of consistency, and he is going to give you a lot of power at the plate.
That's really why he's there. I mean, if there was any waiver, I know what I'm getting with him next year, and that's really why he earned his spot. It's not off of talent alone. There's a lot of more talented people didn't make the list, but Pete's consistency got him there.
And he's consistently great at the plate. It's not like he's just average. He is well above average at the plate.
You know what you're getting, and you love what you're getting.
Exactly.
That's kind of what it comes down to. All right, here we go. Here we go.
Number 40. All right, running through this. We got Luis Robert, Sean Murphy, Xander Bogaerts, Shane McClanahan, JT Realmuto, Adley Rutschman, Tyler Glasnow, Aaron Nola, Byron Buxton, and Brandon Nimmo.
Okay, so right off the bat here, I was talking about Will Smith in the last round. We've got 3 catchers in this 10, which is pretty crazy to me.
I think all 4 of them are very close. I just think they're pretty tiered with Adley and JT and then Sean Murphy. It would not shock me at all if Sean Murphy has the best season of all of them. I think there are people who are not high enough on Sean Murphy. That's my personal opinion.
I'm in the other end. I haven't been exactly impressed by Sean Murphy, but I see the potential there, and I think the opportunity for a breakout season is there.
I think him being the lone effective hitter in that Oakland lineup last year had something to do with it, and also might explain why his walk rates went up, his strikeout rates went down. But I love that. He's great defensively as well. I mean, when you talk about pop time, he's the only guy in the MLB who's comparable to JT. I love him being in Atlanta. I'm expecting big things from him.
Yeah, I think some people might be upset that he shows up on this list higher than Will Smith, who is, established. Mm-hmm. Sam is one of those people. And also Adley over JT. I mean, they're right next to each other. That was probably you saying, look, it's hard to give one of these guys the crown, but what led you to putting Adley over JT even by that one spot?
I've been on the Adley's the best catcher in baseball really since maybe last August. I think defensively his impact it's impossible to measure. And you're right, they're right next to each other because it's honestly personal preference. I have no problem if you go one or the other.
There's still a lot to break down in this 10 too.
Yes,
And
let's move on.
Something else I want to point out real quick are the pitchers here. Specifically the two Rays pitchers we have here in their positions on this tier list.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear why Glasnow over McClanahan and why McClanahan's so low.
Honestly, man, like that, this puts him as like the 8th best starting pitcher. It puts him ahead of guys like Shane Bieber and Dylan Cease, Manoah, Gossman, spoiler alert, none of them are on the list. And then when you look at Glasnow, I just think when I look at Glasnow, like when he's right, he's healthy and he's got all 3 pitches working, like he's with that DeGrom, Strider, Corbin Burns tier in terms of guys I'd want like in one game or in one series.
And you don't think McClanahan's there?
Not in that.
Wow.
He's not in that tier.
He's there
very
for me.
good.
He's there.
He's very good, but he's not in that tier.
Okay. That's fair. Another thing real quick too is this basically like you think Brandon Nimmo is going to have a better season than guys like Glasnow, McClanahan, and things like that?
This is basically like when I look at Nimmo's another one of those. It's like I get a positional advantage. It's in center field with him. He's in his past, he was known as a high walk, high strikeout guy, which, you know, it basically just told me like, look, he was too comfortable hitting with 2 strikes, but he's more willing to swing the bat now. When he's healthy, I can count on 135 OPS plus in a plus glove. It's not superb. It's not Buxton out there, but he's also not Brian Reynolds. So that was another one of those, like kind of like Pete Alonso, but you're giving me an elite center fielder. So there's positional value with that.
Shall I move on? I mean, yeah, like the other guys, Luis Robert is just like, can he stay healthy? Him and Buxton, you know, I think they deserve a spot on this list because of what they can do, but that's also why they're not higher. So
right. I will say I would take Buxton over Robert if I had 100 games from each.
Yeah.
But I am more optimistic about Robert being able to play more games this year. I don't think his injury issues were as chronic as Buxton's are. So that's why Robert is on the list. I think if everything goes right for him, like 9-10 WAR, like monster season, like he has one of those in him. Will we ever see it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's in there. Next group, here we go.
30 through 29. No. 30 through 21.
30 through 22 players.
All right. Austin Riley, Jose Altuve, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Rafael Devers, Corey Seager, Alex Bregman, Carlos Rodon, Kyle Tucker, Garrett Cole, and Bryce Harper.
Go ahead, Sam.
What do you mean, Jacob? Why do you think I'd have a problem with this list?
Go ahead.
No, so hear me out. I'm just kidding. I think Austin Riley, we're going to start there because he's one of my favorite players in baseball. I think he's uber talented. His bat is absolutely ridiculous, and he has an okay glove. He's posted a top 10 WAR in baseball each of the last 2 seasons as well. But I think this list actually does him some respect here, honestly. It's interesting to see Devers over him. With that in mind, I don't think Devers has come close to being in the top 10 WAR like that. But obviously the bat potential is there for like a ridiculous season, like a Vlad Guerrero type season from 2021.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, with Riley, since that's the first person you brought up, I still hate his glove, but you're right. I mean, he's a monster at pulling fly balls and making them leave the yard. With Devers, I mean, it's the same thing. I just think Devers has. I mean, they're very close for a reason, right?
They are the same player.
Right, yeah.
Uniforms.
Yeah, I mean, everything else like Kyle Tucker completely makes sense. Bregman over Devers and Riley's pretty interesting. Seeing Corey Seager that high is pretty interesting too, but Corey Seager's great. Yeah.
I was encouraged with Seager playing 100 45 games or whatever he played last year.
He went through stretches too where he was elite.
I guess this is the good time to throw in this disclaimer. The way that we're going to see how this list did at the end of the year is we're going to look at the F4 rankings. And when you look at someone like Bregman, he's just got the highest ceiling of everyone not named the guys you'll see later in this list.
I would also like to point out the Vlad Guerrero Jr. point. Great player. I don't think the gap between him and Pete is this big. What do you think, Sam?
I think, man, it's so tough because I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has the potential to be the best offensive player in baseball in any given year. I don't think Pete has that potential, but we know Pete is going to be really, really, really good. Does that make sense?
It's ceiling versus floor argument.
Exactly.
I'd say Vlad's ceiling may be higher, but Pete's floor is higher.
I mean,
what do you guys?
I was just going to say Vlad's ceiling is like through the roof offensively.
Speaking of his ceiling being through the roof, what do you guys think that his floor is? Something like last season?
I think so. I think that was one of the worst offensive seasons we're going to see from him. Right,
and it's one of those Juan Soto situations because it's like it was not up to his standard, but it was still very good.
Yeah.
What were like his final OPS plus or like?
He wound up with an 818 OPS.
I guess this run environment is still kind of weird to look at, where you hear an 818 OPS and you're like, oh, that's not that great, but then OPS plus is 132, so that right. is pretty good. It's
right.
That's still kind of weird, but
yeah. And Pete's was what, in the 140s last year, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm taking the consistent 140, 145, 150, and I'm ranking him below the floor of 130 and then the ceiling of 200.
All right. From 20 to 11, we've got Francisco Lindor, Paul Goldschmidt, Fernando Tatis Jr., Julio Rodriguez, Sandy Alcantara, Ronald Acuna Jr., Trea Turner, my favorite, Carlos Correa, Freddie Freeman, and Manny Machado.
I mean,
these are good players.
Right away, you can see the difference between the last 10 and this 10. Yeah. Like, these are the cream of the crop of the MLB. I would love to hear how difficult this was to rank these 10 players because it is such an elite list of players. How difficult was that, Jacob?
I mean, at this point, all of their ceilings are crazy high. It comes down to how well do I think they're set up to repeat what they did last year? How well do I think they're set up to do better than they did last year? Because obviously Acuna Jr. was not a top 15 player last year, but I think this is the year where he reminds everybody. That's just how I feel. I don't think that he's an average glove like he was last year in right field. I think he becomes more accustomed to that. I know I'm focusing on him. There's 9 other players here, but that's just an example of the thought process. Like
J-Rod up there too. I love him being top 20. I think that's a pretty accurate spot too. He did struggle with the strikeout a little bit last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Early on, but he figured out how the umps were going to ump him, and then he just became more aggressive, and then he just, he lit the world on fire through the summer, and he's another one of those 5-tool major power speed guy.
Yeah, he showed some strikeout last year in his game, but there's some great players that strike out quite a bit.
Mike Trout.
We haven't seen him yet.
Acuna as well.
Acuna too.
Yeah. It's not, and Judge. It's not like
part of the game.
There's only 6 people who last year who walked more than they struck out. It's insanely hard to not strike out at least a 15-20% clip at this point in time.
Yeah.
While hitting for power.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
All right, 10 through 1. Corbin Burns, Yordan Alvarez, Jacob deGrom, Nolan Arenado, Mike Trout, Mookie Betts, Jose Ramirez, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and the inevitable Shohei Ohtani. Nolan Arenado over Manny Machado. I probably have Machado over Nolan.
The thing with Nolan was in 2021, he just at the plate, he was mediocre compared to his normal standard. But this past year, the biggest difference was his pulled fly balls were starting to leave the yard. And when you're giving me 130, 140 OPS plus in the game-changing glove he has, honestly, if you look at Arenado and then you look at someone like Austin Riley, like if you flip Riley's glove into elite, you wind up with Arenado.
I think you kind of convinced me.
Yeah.
Manny was great last season. might not hit that mark again upcoming. And yeah, Nolan's glove is just game changing.
And Manny's is really good in its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. But Nolan's is like best of the best platinum glove level.
Mookie Betts at 5. That's pretty good for him. I think he's getting older than some of the guys ahead of him on this list, but I think that's a pretty good finish for him. I think you're pretty optimistic on him for next season.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of like he's not old enough to where like a Scherzer or Verlander, or even like is there any like Goldschmidt where you kind of have to take that into account as well? I think he's still got another few years of MVP caliber performance.
Yeah, talk about consistency too. Like,
yeah, there's not a universe where Mookie Betts plays 130, 40, 50 games and he has less than like 5 WAR. It's just not happening.
So talented. Let's talk about Yordan Alvarez. He came in at number 9. That's basically just all with the bat, I presume. I mean, he's not as bad defensively as some people think, but he's a guy that might have some injury concerns with there's talks about his hand and there's talks about his knees. I think his knees he got surgery on. Obviously, the ceiling is best hitter in baseball. I think we're all on the same page with that.
Without a doubt.
What did you think when you were rating him, Jacob?
The injury concerns don't concern me as much as other people. Maybe his hands, that hamate bone that he was dealing with last year. I got to believe that is healed by now. I mean, if he has chronic hand issues, that would obviously affect, but that's not proven yet, so I didn't want to hold it against him. So, yeah. Anything else? That means we went 1 through 50.
Just looking at top WAR players finishing last year, no Andres Jimenez.
He was another one of those, like, I was looking at Harris, Simeon, Jimenez is right in that group.
He's got to prove it again this year.
I agree.
Yeah.
But number 6 in the league last year.
He was good. No Zach Wheeler, right?
Yeah, he was also I knew I was forgetting one pitcher. He's in that like Gossman, Cease, Bieber,
Okay.
Castillo. Yeah, like he's.
The pitcher cutoff is tough. Yeah, there's
is.
some good pitchers that got left off.
Yeah.
I know it's hard.
I'm well aware. Yes.
That's why JV at 50. It looks like whoa, but it's really like you think about it.
So that was Jacob's list. I did not disagree with it as much as I thought. I thought he did a good job. Let's smash a like for Jacob. That was a lot of work that he put in behind the scenes, creating this top 50 list.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge shout out to Jacob for putting this video together. This was a lot of fun to record. And please let us know what kind of content you guys are looking for during the season. We want to stay on top of hot topics and whatever else you guys want to see, so definitely let us know. If you guys like videos like this, check out the rest of our videos on our channel. We'll see you guys in the next video.